We have to. Here, Jeff. We turn the air on. And then we sweat.
Oh, thanks.
Good. Busy.
And Jeanette.
This guy.
Yeah, right.
No, thank you.
You get away with it.
You can believe it. It was in the press. I almost think you made a mistake. I didn't
I thought.
We won now.
Snyder, you're live.
Good evening, everyone. We call to order the March 14, 2024 annual Board of Transportation Authority. Call to order and done. Roll call, please.
Vice Chair Snyder,
Here.
Supervisor Walkinshaw,
Here.
Chair Jefferson, Mayor Wilson,
Here.
Mayor Davis Younger,
Here.
Mayor Reed,
Here.
Senator Boysko,
Here.
Supervisor Harity,
Here.
Mr. Bedell,
I'm still here.
Ms. Hines,
Here,
Mr. Cole,
Here.
Mayor Olem,
Here.
Mr. Horsley.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Great, thanks very much. Chair Randall, as I understand, the budget hearing tonight, we all know how very important that is. So she would be here otherwise. And I'm a board substitute, so you've stuck with me for the next meeting. So first item on the agenda is the travel trends and update. CEO Beckman.
So excuse me, Mr. Chairman, we will ask Haroon Rashid to give us the travel trends update. Unlike what we previously do on a quarterly basis, this update will be for calendar year 2023. Haroon?
Yeah, thanks, Monica. Yeah. Vice Chair Snyder and members of the authority, this is our tour reporting on this topic since we started back in 2021, since the pandemic started. And like Monica said, this is our first report in 2024. So we will cover a snapshot of the calendar year 2023. And I would like to mention another milestone. Next Wednesday, March 20th, we will be on our 4th year anniversary of the first stay at home executive order number 55. So it's been 4 years almost. Next slide. So we will cover highway travel demands with two metrics. Number one is vehicle miles of travel, and then we will look at a little more granular level at the corridor level in Northern Virginia. So we all know VMT is a broad indicator of not just transportation, but overall socioeconomic conditions that dictate travel demands. And it can be impacted by a number of factors, broadly speaking, overall population growth, land use changes, personal trip rates, trip making behaviors, trip lengths, etc. In this presentation, we will not go over all these underlying factors, why the VMT is changing, but we will just cover the trend lines nationally and regionally. And then we will cover transit ridership trend. We will for the first time, we will look at the national trends from American Public Transit Association and compare those with the NOVA ridership. Next slide. So we all have been watching all these media coverage on travel patterns. We have picked up these three to mostly cover the basis. And the major takeaway, or I think overall trending, is highway travels have surpassed the 2019 pre-pandemic level nationally. Consecutively, or I guess associated, highway congestion is back. In one report, one traffic scorecard, Washington, D.C. was ranked number 2 in the nation for congested travel times. Lastly, on transit, from APTA, American Public Transportation Association, we are overall, for all modes, taken into average, 77% of pre-pandemic levels. So our takeaway is highway travel is back or surpassed, and congestion is back, related congestion on the roadways. And on the transit side, we are almost there, but not quite. The first report, the VMT, is from FHWA. It is based on data from the state DOTs. As a part of the national or state annual program, they send traffic counts and the comprehensive lane mile inventory to FHWA. And based on these two metrics, FHWA derived the vehicle mile of travel metric. Second one, highway congestion, it is from a private company. They track personal movements with cell phone data, and then they derive travel speeds on the highway and the traffic congestion. And the last one is based on APTA data, American Public Transit Association. They collect data from FTA's National Transit Database, and then they report overall trends, yearly trends, nationally and regionally. Next slide. So this one and the next couple of slides, we will cover the highway travels. This one shows the trends, the percentage changes in VMTs nationally, in Virginia, and in Northern Virginia. The red line is the national line. As we all can see, in 2023, for the first time since pandemic, all throughout the year, VMTs surpassed 2019 level. In Virginia, we are still below. I have calculated about 3.5% below on average in 2023. In Northern Virginia, we are not fortunate to have monthly data. We have just one data point, which are the yellow dots. This is annual average daily VMT. As we can see, it's in Northern Virginia, travel was lower than both national and state. But in 2022, we are touching state level, and we are still looking for 2023 data. In the next slide, on these highway travels, we will see, looking at more granular traffic volumes at the corridor level. in all these reports, we've been covering one peak period, but in this report, we wanted to check the variation in travel demands or travel patterns by day of the week. So this chart, this histogram shows days of the week and associated travel demands. And we can observe Thursdays and Fridays are days with maximum travel demands in the region in fourth quarter in 2023. Now, this analysis is based on permanent traffic counters in Northern Virginia, the VDOT traffic counters. In the next map, we will see this location just to get an idea on how these trends are derived. Go to the next slide. On the map on the right-hand side on this slide, the blue lines show you the permanent traffic counter locations in Northern Virginia. I would like to comment that most of our major freeway and principal arterials segments are covered with these permanent counters with two caveats. I would like to note that Route 28 in the entire NOVA does not have any permanent counters, and also Route 7 in Fairfax County doesn't have any. So with these caveats, our analysis is based on these traffic count locations. Next slide. So another way to look at these travel patterns or travel demands are by period of the day. We can see a somewhat flattened AM and midday, with PM peak being the highest demand period in fourth quarter in 2023. That's all we have on the highway side. In the next 4 slides, we will cover the transit travel pattern, transit ridership patterns. So for transit, as we began the slides or presentation, we are comparing national APTA numbers with local transit provider numbers from DRPT and NBTC. On this chart, the red line is the national trend, blue line is Northern Virginia, and this particular chart is for all bus services. As we can see from this chart, NOVA as a region have been performing well over the national trend, especially in 2023. And this is based on quarterly ridership numbers from APTA. My last comment would be in 2023, not only we have surpassed national trend, but there's a sharp uptick, upward trend in the ridership for local buses in Northern Virginia. Next slide. So this shows trend for the heavy rail. So APTA calls it heavy rail. We know in Northern Virginia, this is Metro Rail. The blue line is us, Northern Virginia. Although trending upward in 2023, we are still below the red line, which is the national trend. And the red line is on average 31% below than 2019 level. And we are at, on average, for the entire year of 2023, 46% below than 2019 ridership levels. Next slide. And the last one is for the commuter rail. In our region, it is VRE. From the chart, it is very evident that the recovery rate for VRE has flattened in 2023. And as we compare to the red line, which is the national trend, we are still below the national trend. On average, in the nation, commuter rails were 39% below, and in Northern Virginia, we are at 65% below. My takeaway comment for these two, commuter rail and heavy rail, is maybe these slower recoveries are representative of these two services. Heavy reliance on federal employees' commute travel and the slow rate of federal back to office. Next slide. This is a busy chart, and this is a regular chart that we've been presenting to authority. It shows ridership trend, monthly ridership trend for all public transit providers in the region in Northern Virginia. And the data source is DRPT and NBTC.
Who's that yellow line?
Mayor Wilson, has been performing phenomenally. So was Connector, the blue line, just under the yellow line. And as we can see, the bottom two lines are red and blue, are Metro Rail and VRE respectively. Most bus services showed the strong upward trend in 2023. This is the last slide with all the ridership trends and highway travel demands. I would like to present a concluding comment from our latest transportation perception survey on these trends, which says commuting habits are still impacted by the post-pandemic shift to work from home, but most residents are commuting to work at least a few days a week and are on the road even more for non-work purposes. And that may have explained the highway travel demand, that we are not commuting as much, but still making other purpose trips on the roadways. So with these evolving rates of back to office and the related office space utilization rates, our takeaway is travel patterns are still in a transition and may not yet shape to a new normal, which may come in the coming months and years. Next slide. So that's my presentation, and in the next report, we will try to highlight transportation technology adoptions in Northern Virginia. That's all right here. I'm open for questions.
Thank you so very much. Are there questions? I am not seeing or hearing any.
Mr. Snyder,
Yes, Mary.
it's Mary Hines. I'm just curious, and whether we could find out what the comparison is from pre-COVID to now in terms of riders who are using a transit benefit from the federal government. If that might be something we could, that it might make sense for us to track and be a data point in talking to our folks on Capitol Hill. Or anyway, I just wonder about that. It's probably the best way to figure out what's really going on.
Great, thanks very much. Any other questions?
We will look into that.
I'll just know it's in the building.
Yeah. Okay, any other questions or
It's in the
comments?
back.
So thanks a lot for this report. We've been receiving this periodically and they always have provided us a lot of great information. So thanks so much. So the next set of items are action items. First, I entertain approval of the February 8th, 2024 meeting summary minutes. So
Mrs. Snyder, excuse me, Vice Chair Snyder, we need Chair Jefferson in the room.
in which case, we'll wait.
We can go to the discussion item.
Sure. Let's do that. Governance and personnel committee report.
Good evening and so good to be home. I would say collectively as a region, we had a pretty good session on transportation issues. Wasn't quite as volatile as it has been the last decade, it seems. There are a couple of big things that we focused on. I first want to acknowledge that our MBTA member and chair of Senate Transportation Committee did a wonderful job putting through Senate Bill 158, which went through the General Assembly with 140 positive votes. So we will have clear clarity on how the authority will appoint members to its technical advisory committee. Yay! Sort of the other big thing that we were all collectively working on is around stopgap funding for Metro, specifically looking at asking the state to match federal money for 2 years as we collectively figure out the long term for Metro, both operations, size, service, and funding. I will say that the conference budget was very successful. It had exactly what we needed and what we asked for. The state will match local contributions for FY 25 and 26 out of the general fund. That's 65 million for 25, 84.5 million for 26. There's a 2-year temporary lift of the 3% cap on the subsidy increase, which will allow us to help fill in the gap. And we knew there would be some kind of benchmarking or accountability language, and what they settled on in the conference budget is WMATA to conduct a comparison of its overhead costs as compared to several named transit systems and the usual Washington, Boston, New York, et cetera, et cetera. And I will say that for clarity, the General Assembly was equal in providing sort of little bump ups out of the general fund for transportation for a couple other regions. The I-81 corridor folks have both, governor's introduced budget had 70 million for them for a particular project that stayed in. And then the General Assembly is giving them an opening to collect up to 175 million over 3 years from the surplus, from unallocated surplus. And we'll probably continue to hear about I-81 challenges to finish up their $2 billion set of projects. And then there was toll relief money for Hampton Roads, about 100 million. There's also a 2-year study on transit in Northern Virginia. It has 2 components. One is Metro, and there'll be a report provided November of this year. The report is to look at operating and capital funding needs for all of Northern Virginia Transit, Metro, VRE, and the local bus systems, but clearly first year will be focused on Metro. The work of that will be really, the starting point is a lot of research and analysis and recommendations that have been developed at the Northern Virginia Transportation Commission. So there's not starting from zero. There's a great, any of you who are serving on NVTC or watch their meetings, so great wealth of knowledge there. Senator Evan has the resolution. Delegate Watts had language in the budget. We ended up with the resolution, and NVTA has a member on the technical advisory group. So that will get started pretty darn quickly. Also, I would say that the other area that I know we've talked a lot over the years at the authority are issues around safety, particularly pedestrians, cyclists, and vehicle interface. It continues to be a challenge to get bills through the General Assembly, but we did have a couple of bills get through. One is Delegate Carr, House Bill 1071. This clarified that localities on state right-of-way roadways are allowed to reduce speed limits to less than 25 miles per hour, but not less than 15 per ordinance in a designated business district or resident district. Locality has to notify the commissioner of the change. So that has gone back and forth, but now it's very, very clear, should the governor sign this, that authority is there. You recall in 2022, I believe, the General Assembly provided localities with limited authority for photo speed monitoring use as a way to hopefully get people to slow down, or particularly around school systems, schools and work zones. And that's been in place. And I know a number of localities have implemented it by ordinance, but we don't have a lot of data on what the results have been. So it has been a challenge to get the General Assembly to expand that. We had a number of bills to do that this year. Senator Rome did get a bill through. It's a very uniquely identified bill, but her bill would permit localities to address high-risk intersections, which are defined in the bill as road segment no more than 1,000 feet from a school border, and that there has been a fatal accident since 2014. Meeting those parameters, you will be able to set up a photo monitoring system. Again, this bill with the governor, we'll see if he amends or signs it. But there were a number of bills that came forth that just didn't get through this year. I will say, and I'm going to turn to Senator Boysko to talk a little bit about this, both in the House Transportation Committee and the Senate Transportation Committee, all over the Commonwealth, both parties, a lot of concern about growing serious injuries and fatalities in these conflicts between pedestrian vehicles and cyclists, and trying to find something or other tools that maybe localities could use. So Senator Boysko, announced that she would be writing a letter to VDOT to reconvene a working group. The House chairman is Delegate Carrie Delaney from Centerville, and she feels the same way. So there will be a working group from stakeholders all over the Commonwealth, which I think is appropriate, just to have conversations about what other tools. I think on photo monitoring, one of the big things that we have heard is there is not, at the time, particularly last year, there was very little in data on if those systems are working. Are we seeing speeds drop? How many citations are going out? So probably one of the bigger things that they're going to ask localities about is if you have a system, sharing information. Where'd you put it? How'd you decide? Have you seen any changes in speed? How many citations, et cetera, et cetera. So I think if you're interested in this topic, please be prepared to provide that data. It can only help, hopefully. Senator Boysko, you got anything on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really important, the studies that were discussed during that hearing, the bicyclists were clear with us that they had not been involved and they had not been included in any of the General Assembly's studies. So
Okay.
they would like to be part of that process because they felt that they had been left out. But I agree that your concern, the message around being concerned around pedestrian safety, specifically bicycle safety, was something that we talked about all session long and continues to be a huge issue. Senator Danica Rome, who was a member of our group here, was very outspoken and passionate about it. We tried actually to get some funding in the budget for an intersection that had numerous fatalities in her district. But it didn't make it to the finish line. But I also was fortunate enough to be the person representing Northern Virginia on the budget conference. So, and was on the transportation portion of that as well and fought for it and worked with Terry Austin, who was my counterpart. So we found common ground and everybody got something good.
Yes.
Yes. On transportation.
On transportation. So that was the transportation session in a nutshell. I said it was, again, very focused, relatively quiet, which is a big change. We're kind of like it. But I'm happy to answer any questions if anybody has any.
Are there any questions? Yes.
Yeah, not a question, just we do have the data on the success of the school zone cameras. We have a pilot at 9 schools and saw dramatic decreases in average speeds. Obviously next year they're going to be looking for data from multiple jurisdictions and probably beyond the pilot, but just for other jurisdictions, think about it. We saw a very dramatic decrease immediately. It's kind of leveled off a little bit, but it's still a net decrease. All of the locations where we put the school. So the data is there. I can't imagine it would be different in other jurisdictions. It's very compelling.
Yeah, I think having data is going to be really important. And I think hopefully folks' systems have been up and running for enough time that they'll have data that they can share. Thank you.
Senator Boysko, is there anything else you'd like to share with us?
Well, I would like to thank you all for making phone calls to our legislators to express the concern around the funding for Metro. I know that lots of you all did make phone calls and it did make a difference. And hopefully it will stay in. We'll see what the governor does with everyone, but I had a conversation with him. He said he agreed that we needed to fund the system. And hopefully as we move towards reconvene, that will stay in the budget. It was a really good session. It was less combative than I've ever seen it be. I don't know if it's because we had half of the Senate was brand new and a third of the House, but we all worked really well together. And it was, I believe, much less combative than it has been in the past.
Even when they couldn't get to yes, there was a lot of interest to keep working on things in the interim.
Yeah,
So it's been a very busy interim for some of these members.
a lot of these studies are going to be in process.
Any other questions or comments? I'd just like to add, we're extremely lucky to have the delegation doing Richmond, and we're especially lucky to have Southern Boy Scout. I don't know anybody who works harder and is more effective than Southern Boy Scouts. So I think a round of applause. Thank you so much. Well, great report. I think we ought to adjourn the meeting. We have some funding things we have to take care of. Yeah. Great. Well, thanks. Anything else on governance personnel? All right, let's go back to the action items then. And entertain a motion to be agenda item number 4. Entertain a motion to approve the February 8th, 2024 meeting summary minutes. So,
Second.
any discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any
Aye.
opposed?
One extension.
Two abstentions. And Mary, are you voting yes or no?
Yes, Dave.
Thank you, Mary. Appreciate that. Okay, so the next item is the approval of the May 9, 2024 public hearing date for the upcoming 2024-2029 6-year program. CEO package.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman. So it's that time of year where we are on the tail end of your 6-year program update. This update covers fiscal years 28 and 29. Even though we call it a full 6-year program, we are adding fiscal years 28 and 29. We are asking for you to approve Thursday, May 9th as the date of the public hearing. So the public hearing will be held immediately prior to the start of the May authority meeting. We will try to keep the agenda very light for that meeting. I do want to add, at your table are these placards. Is this placard, I should say, summarizing the 24 projects that we have evaluated. We have 24 projects totaling 900, a little over, or just shy of $1 billion, I should say. The evaluations have been complete, and now we're looking at the qualitative component, which is hearing back from the public and your committees. Again, we have 2 statutory committees, the Technical Advisory Committee and the Planning Coordination Advisory Committee. And then your standing committee, the Planning and Programming Committee, will all meet and provide recommendations on the program, in addition to the feedback we get from the public. Also, in your packet, a part of this item, you will see the summary of the project evaluations of the 24 candidate projects, and they are ranked by their congestion reduction relative to cost score. So if you look 1 through 25, number 1 has the highest CRRC score, and then 24 has the lowest, but they are ranked by the CRRC score. Other model-based quantitative evaluations include the transaction project rankings, which is really the 10 performance measures that we adopted a few years ago as part of the transaction update. And we include the status of long-term benefits. As a reminder, HB 2313, and I'm paraphrasing, says over time, each locality shall get their or receive their proportional share of the revenues. Your principles that you adopted in December of 2014 said you would do it on a retrospective basis, 10 years out on completed projects, and that 50% of the long-term benefit would be attributable to project location. The remaining balance is trip origin and destination. But in order for us to keep a tally of long-term benefits that's as current as possible, we as staff do a long-term benefit evaluation or assessment with each funding program. By the way, this will be our 7th funding program. A new thing that we added for this funding program cycle is that, and this is the first time ever, we have evaluated the project applications for their alignment with the authority's core values, which are equity, safety, and sustainability. So staff has conducted this analysis, and the results are also included as qualitative consideration. So not included, because we can't address at this time, geographic and modal balance. As you know, we try to achieve geographic and modal balance. Also, again, we need feedback from the public. So what you do not have is a recommendation from staff. because we want to hear from the committees and the feedback from the public. So we are asking that you approve Thursday, May 9th as the date of the public hearing. The public comment period will be March 28th through May the 19th. But May the 9th would be the public hearing if you so choose to approve this evening. Mr. Vice Chair, I'm here for any questions.
Sure. Thanks very much. So which of the attachments is the ranking? The initial ranking, I just want to make sure. people see that.
My glasses.
Is that attachment C?
That is attachment D.
Or
And
is
it's
it-
all, and attachment C has the congestion reduction relative to cost, but it also has the performance measures, it has the long-term benefits. Attachment C is the spreadsheet that shows all of the quantitative factors that we've evaluated.
Okay, so attachment E is kind of everything combined, including the. I'm just trying to get the chart that I think people need to really focus on.
So it really depends what you're looking for. So what I would note is, so going back to C, that's the one that has the summary of the evaluation.
C,
Yes.
and then E is,
E has the transaction rating. So at the bottom of page 1 of the memo, it details what each attachment has or each attachment consists of. But E is the transaction rating. And we also have a 2-page summary of each of the candidate projects. But you can go to the 6-year program page on our website to get that detailed information.
any questions at all? So tonight we're being asked to approve really the date and time for the hearing. And that, by the way, will be in our new location.
It will be at our new location, which I will speak more to in my time for the CEO report.
Thanks very much. Any questions or comments? Then I entertain a motion to approve May 9, 2024 as a public hearing date. Thank you. Is there a second? Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Mary Hines, how do you vote?
Aye.
Thanks, Matt. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the FY 2030 CMAQ RSTP funding recommendations for Commonwealth Transportation.
Thank you again, Mr. Vice Chairman. It is that time of year where the authority makes its recommendation on the CMAQ and RSTP funds to the Commonwealth Transportation Board. I would like to emphasize the word recommendation. We do not have final say. That belongs and resides with the Commonwealth Transportation Board. The estimated funding available for distribution in FY 2030 is $90 million, which is subject to change because this is out year money, so it is an estimate. CMAQ is 24 million, and then RSTP is 66 million. I will note that VDOT provides the local match for both CMAQ and RSTP funds. So per authority recommendation for the CMAQ and RSTP funds for FY 2030, we will provide this recommendation to the CTB, and hopefully it will be included in their 6-year improvement program that we anticipate that they will take action on at their June meeting. Are there any questions? And I will note that the charts of how we are recommending that CMAQ and RSTP funds be programmed are included as part of this item as an attachment.
Okay, thanks a lot. So, looking at these charts, you rank them, right? And then the requested amount is the amount that was requested, and then the proposed amount is, after recognizing that there are not funds equal to the requested funds, then this is your proposed.
That is correct. The total request was $152 million, and we were dealing with an estimated 90 million.
I love the way you always present it. You know, usually about requests and no, by the way, not all there. Anyway, okay, thanks. Any questions or comments? All right, I entertain a motion to approve the FY 2030 CIRSTP funding recommendations of the funding and transportation board. Is there a second? Second, thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? No opposition, no abstention, and Mary Ellen voted in favor. Thank you all very much. Next item. Gee whiz, I wonder who's gonna move this. Approval of Prince William County's Van Buren Road Nordic Extension Route 234 to Cardinal Drive Standard Project Completion, SBA 2022-319-1. CEO Backlund.
Mr. Vice Chairman, this project was included as part of your most recent six-year program, the FY 22 to FY 2027. Prince William is ready to move forward in the amount of $8 million. And we need to have this spot executed so that when they do the work, we're in a position to reimburse them for their work on
Thank
the
you.
project.
Is there a motion?
I guess I'm gonna make it.
I'll second.
All right. Any discussion? It's hearing or seeing no discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Abstention, passes unanimously. Mary, thank you very much for your yes vote. Next item on the agenda, approval of letter of endorsement for Town of Herndon Safe Streets and Roads for All SS4A program grant application. Background.
So, Mr. Vice Chairman, the town of Herndon has requested MBTA endorsement of their Safe Streets and Roads for All grant application. The town is seeking to develop a safety action plan. As many of you are aware, the town is located at a crossroads at several major regional corridors adjacent to the newly opened Metro Silver Line and also adjacent to Dulles International Airport. So they get a significant amount of traffic volume in that area, and they would like a safety action plan.
Thank you. Is there a motion on this item?
I'd love to make the motion, but I'm the non-voting member.
Oh, I'll make the motion.
Thank you.
There you go.
I will
say.
Is there a second? Thank you.
Yeah.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Very nice. How do you vote?
I vote aye.
Thank you, Mary. That item passes unanimously. So the next item on the agenda is the governance and personnel committee report, which is absolutely fantastic. So we can move on to the next discussion item. Is there a finance committee report?
I will try to be as brief as last month.
Not only brief, but good.
Good. Mayor Odessa, on her regrets, being ill, she is pretty much under the weather. She wanted to convey that the three budgets that the authority has, the operating budget, the 30% budget, the 70% budget, will be presented to the authority in April. On the portfolio performance is, we're positive cash flow every month and interest rates are in our favor, so it's doing very well. Revenues, grantor's tax is struggling. The state's estimate for the interstate operations and enhancement program revenue is short. However, since sales tax is running about 324 million a year, slight positive variance on that is covering both of those problems. So we're about 3% up for the year on our total revenue. Operating budget is well within parameters and no concerns. And that's the report.
Thank
If there's any
you.
questions.
Do we need to formally adopt a report or receive it or anything
No.
like that? Okay. Thanks very much for doing the. Any discussion on the finance committee report? Okay, not seeing any. Next item on the agenda, planning coordination advisory committee report.
Mr. Vice Chairman, that report from their chair, Mayor Colbert, is in your packet. They did meet a few weeks ago, and the report is in your packet.
Anything to highlight there with the report?
Well, it was the first time, and you will hear me say the same thing for the Technical Advisory Committee as well. It's the first time we met since 2022. With these committees, we don't meet just to meet. So now that we're doing a funding program, we did bring them together to meet. So we talked about and gave them a status update on the 6-year program that we're working on now. We also went over the preliminary deployment plan for the regional BRT system study that we're working on. So actively engaged, and both committees had quorum and then some. So they are they will have a meeting in March, and they will be meeting until we get to the adoption of this program or their recommendation, I should know.
Great, thanks very much. Yeah, so recalling for people that in the final approval of the 6-year plan, we have not only this, we received the recommendations from staff, public hearing, and these committees, right?
So what we do is do a summary of all of the comments received during the public comment period, including the public hearing. So we will have that for you. We will also have the committee recommendations. But the final recommendation will come from the Planning and Programming Committee, which is chaired by Mayor Wilson.
Aha. So we all have to be nice, even as hard as it will be.
Just several more months. Then you can say whatever you want.
But not until then.
Not until-
Yeah. Anything else on the technical advisory committee?
And their meeting was pretty much, they had the same agenda as the PCAC.
All right, and now the long-awaited chief executive officers.
So, Mr. Vice Chairman, the thing that I will note is that, and it's also on your agenda, but I will emphasize this, we will send out emails. Tonight is your last night or last meeting in this building. We are moving, and when I say we are moving, movers will be here on Monday. So if you need to come to the authority's offices after Monday, and we ask that you not come on Monday with the move, we will not be here. The new address is 2600 Park Tower Drive. Now, I will note, our permanent space is Suite 601. We will not be in the permanent space just yet. There is some work that needs to be done, so we will be housed on the 2nd floor until the permanent space is ready. However, the facilities, the meeting space, conference room is there and available to have authority meetings and public hearings and things of that nature. So that will not be a problem. But again, we will send an email out to you as a reminder, don't come here, go there. Also want to remind everyone that it's the location, the new facility is located directly across the street from the Dunn-Loring Metro Rail Station. Are there any questions?
Any questions at all?
Okay, so regarding Smart Scale. Smart Scale, and I guess they're gearing up for their next round. I wanted to let everyone know that the authority plans to submit an application on behalf of the city of Alexandria in Arlington County for the I-395 Shirlington Rotary Interchange Impairment Project. There are a lot of safety and operational issues that intersection has. So the county and the city collaborated with the authority and asked, because it is a regional project with the authority submit. And as a reminder, we can't submit for Smart Scale application. Any questions? Lastly, I will note regarding the preliminary deployment plan for our regional BRT study, we have held 4 virtual focus groups with NOVA residents. And these focus groups were held March 5th and 6th. And it provided some deeper insights to various topics related to the willingness to use a regional BRT system. And the groups were comprised of transit and non-transit riders. We tried to keep everything balanced. Mr. Vice Chairman, that concludes my report.
Give us a high-level summary.
Mr. Jasper, can you provide that? He'll do a much better job than I will.
Yes.
So, we're still working with the consultant team, to kind of finalize their report. The focus group only held a couple of weeks ago, so they're still pulling a lot of information together in a format that we can share. And we do hope to share that with you in the coming months. Essentially, we covered a lot of topics. You may recall, at last month's authority meeting, we presented the results of the perception survey, and there was quite a bit of discussion about crime as a factor on quality of life. So we did actually put a bit of a time budget into the focus groups to gather more perceptions about crime, perception of crime, experiences of crime, be they on transit or in some other form of transportation. So that was quite helpful. The focus groups were structured in such a way that we get perspectives from folks who either were regular transit riders or non-riders, because we anticipated their perspectives would be different, and they were. There was a lot of discussion about what it would take to persuade people to use transit. What were the reasons why they don't use transit? And obviously, in the context of the preliminary deployment plan for BRC, that was very important at this early stage to begin to sound out the sorts of factors that we would need to take into account as we get deeper into the PDP work. So I think, as we found from the perception survey, there's not a whole lot of familiarity with BRT in the region, and that there is a kind of a mixture of thoughts about whether it will be beneficial or not, with a lot of it really coming down to the details, which we don't have yet. So a lot of it was pretty high level and somewhat hypothetical.
A lot of any questions. And I'm sure we'll have a more detailed briefing.
Yeah, yes, indeed. I would say, you know, much as the perception survey fed into the focus group design, the findings from the focus group are now feeding into the design of an online survey, which is under development right now, will be available for use by folks in the region, probably in the time frame of mid-April to mid-May. I will note that it is overlapping with the 6-year program public comment period, which you've just taken action on. That was always anticipated to be the case, and we're working with the consultant team to make sure we use the fact that we're doing 2 types of public engagement simultaneously to kind of to really highlight the synergies of doing that, rather than, you know, worry about causing confusion by doing 2 different things at the same time.
Good. Thanks. Any questions? All right. Ms. Blackman, is that it for you?
That is it for me, Mr. Vice Chair.
Thanks so very much. Chair's comments, I have none, except big thank you to every member of the authority, especially our representatives in Richmond, all of our staff. Moving an office and a staff is not the easiest thing in the world, and thank you very much for what you've done to find us a new home and to get us there. Does anyone have any issues with the raised tonight? Okay, seeing any, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. First, motion and second, all of them, so the court is aye. Very, that's all very much.
Yeah.